Hey, what's up, guys? It's your boy Christian,
And it's your boy D.Young, and
and
this
this
is
is
Word
Word
on
on
the
the
Block.
Block, episode 1. And today we're bringing this new segment called Word on the Block, which pretty much me and Damien are just going to be able to kind of like just talk about whatever is going on in the world and just kind of just give our thoughts on what's happening. And obviously, there's a lot going on this week across the world. Actually, yeah, across the world. There's protests across the world for um, George Floyd, who was, obviously murdered by a cop, 4 cops actually, and so that's been a big issue and a big point that the world is addressing today. And so, me, D.Young, it's happening back in our backyards pretty much, and so we want to just kind of share our experiences of the protest, and because both of us went out there. And D.Young, if you want to share a little bit about your experience at the officer's house, because he's right down the block, right? So tell us a little bit about that.
So Word on the Block is the officer that ended up actually killing George Floyd. His name is Derek Chauvin, if I pronounced that right. He actually only lives 3 blocks down from me in my neighborhood, which is crazy because you never think that it could hit so close to home. So on the 3rd night of protesting, they protested outside of his house, I believe the same night that the murder happened or the day after.
Mm-hmm.
And I never thought of anything crazy about it. I was just like, oh, okay, they're just out there trying to get justice. I understand that they're out here to get justice. And it kept getting crazier every night. They kept going out. And I actually went out on the 3rd or 4th night out there to see at like 10 p.m. and they were still out there. And when they were out there, I realized, aside from watching it on Facebook Live and just seeing people's reaction, I really wanted to go out there and experience it myself to see what it was like to be in a real protest with the people who are feeling like there's no equality for them, because there's people out here getting murdered and they're not people of color and they're not getting sentences and stuff as bad as people who murdered people of color. They're getting light sentences, compared to people who aren't getting the light sentences. When I went, I realized that it was scary. I'm not gonna lie, it was scary because I didn't know what I was getting myself into. This is new to me. I've been to other protests before, but they were very quiet, very peaceful protests, just for like let's say when I was up at St. Cloud State, we went out to protest about the president or something, the new president coming in, vice president. Different story. But then for this one, they were fighting for justice, people of color, it was Black people, white people, Mexican people, Asian people all around, and there's all ties into Black Lives Matter and all that about how Black people aren't getting the justice that they deserve, you see a lot of news on the news that show that when cops murder people of color, they're getting very light sentences, like a smack on their hand. That's about it. They're not going to jail for life for something that they did intentionally or unintentionally, Or like I said, from my experience going there, it was tough, man, to see all these people fighting for something that they really are passionate about. Me being Asian, I'm not African American, so I cannot compare my life to their life and say like, 100. Oh, we all face the same type of discrimination when Black people have been here facing slavery and all that, fighting for civil rights forever for the past how many years, I can't put a number on it, but when I went live just so other people could see my experience. And it was scary, man. It's scary to see 100 to 150 cops and SWAT out there blocking the roads in front of the officer's house because people were they weren't rioting and looting in where I'm at, but they definitely were going to his house, spray painting on his garage, saying F the cops.
Talk a little bit about how many people were out there and also how many officers are out there.
So for officers, there's definitely about 100, 150. They're all in SWAT gear, they're all in masks and stuff. They all have batons they're holding. They're definitely holding off the block where the cop lives. And there's a fine line of the protesters made a clear line, invisible line that says don't cross the line. If you cross the line, we're stepping into their territory, and we don't want any trouble to happen since this is a peaceful protest, So when I went, I stayed way behind everybody because it's 10 o'clock. Anything could go down. One
Yeah.
person goes up to the cop and gets in contact with them, and then everything
So
breaks loose. Hell breaks loose, right?
yeah, yeah. I think the great thing you pointed out was that they put a line out there saying this is a peaceful protest. I think a lot of people get it mixed up where they see the rioting and looting and they think that every protest is a riot, and I don't think that that's the case. You know, I think
Yeah,
for majority of the time, what I've seen out here, because obviously we drive by it every day, we see it out here. Like majority of protesters are peaceful protesters, and I
yeah,
think the guys that are looting and rioting, they're giving the protesters a little bit of bad rep. But I totally understand why riots and looting happen, just
yeah,
because like um, it's really like just a way to really just express themselves of not being heard over the past couple of years. Like people always talk about being peaceful with the protests, but you can see like over the past couple of years, because this is not the first time a police officer has killed a black person. And there's been peaceful protests such as Colin Kaepernick kneeling down and stuff like that. We've seen that stuff, and he's getting hate just for that. But
yeah,
and every time they try to peace or they try to peaceful protest, um, they still get hated on. So what's the right way to really
yeah,
protest? And I think
yeah,
this is just kind of just like they had enough, and so this is just what
yeah,
will happen. Um, to give you, I went out to protest like yesterday around 1
yeah.
p.m. at the state capitol, which was a totally peaceful protest. There was probably thousands of people.
Yeah,
Uh,
compared to my protest over here, I didn't even get on it yet. There was about, I'd say there was a good 100, 150 people too there.
yeah,
Yours was
yeah,
way more different from what I saw you post up. There was definitely like thousands of people.
yeah. That's the thing, though. It's like my experience was like way different than anything I've ever experienced. I just wanted to get out to experience that for myself.
Yeah,
I want to get out to more protests. I think it was something that that really ignited like a fire in me to really care about something like this. But to be able to see all those people of different color, and a lot of them are very young, that are out there, that are protesting, that are leading the protest, that are speaking about what needs to happen, the change that they're looking for, and things like that. And also, there's like people from all over bringing food, snacks, water, just passing it off for free. And it's just crazy to see everybody come together. And I think this is like a very like revolutionary time, man.
yeah.
And it's huge. The other
And
note I want,
honestly, this whole thing that's happening with the world right now, especially since we live right in Minnesota, the heart of what's happening,
yeah,
we're really getting to see people's true colors. It's really revealing who is with what and who's on whose side. Not that
yeah,
you should choose a side, you should choose the side that's right, But
yeah,
oh yeah, by the way, disclaimer, what we speak upon does not reflect 81st Ave. It's just what we believe is right and what's
yeah.
wrong
This
with
is
our
this
experiences in life.
This is all our humble opinions. We're not acting like we're
Yeah,
experts or anything like that. This is just our opinions and our experiences with
yeah.
this whole mess. We should state that at the beginning, but yeah, exactly. Go ahead. You were saying something?
Yeah. So, just seeing that a lot of people that I know are very against Black Lives Matter. A lot of people are for All Lives Matter and all that. They don't
Yeah,
understand the differences. It's
yeah,
just really eye opening, and you see a lot of your own people. Like as Hmong people, I see on Facebook and in life, Hmong people are attacking Hmong people because there's two sides to it. There's always going to be two sides to it, and it's really hard because being a Hmong person, we really being a Hmong in the Hmong culture is a very unity type of culture. Okay, we're all together a lot of the times, and when you see it divided, you really see people's true colors.
yeah, for sure. I think that's man, that's a whole huge topic to talk about. And I think the great thing that I was gonna say was that like going out to these events like this, there's women and the people from the LGBT community that are leading the
Yeah,
charge on these things. And
yeah,
from all the negativity and all the hate type of posts are coming from men or uh, among men,
yeah.
just because they feel,
Older
yeah,
Hmong men.
yeah. And I mean, it's across the board just because it's the way they're taught. And obviously they have like the trauma of growing up and that mindset by how the media has portrayed African American men. And so, and they may have experienced bullying or something like that in the
I
past.
think, like the generation before us, because I'd say we're like second, third generation compared to our parents.
Sure.
They definitely experienced. I guarantee they definitely experienced more racism compared to what we did. Because
Yeah.
when Hmong people moved here,
Oh,
they
yeah.
moved in around 1960s, 1970s,
Yep.
and people were new to just Asians coming in and just living there. So I
Uh-huh.
guarantee the reason why they view racism and black people, white people differently is because they probably had bad experiences with them. I'm not saying that I know that they did, but I'm just saying in general, our generation has grown up with them and they've been not accommodated, used to us. We've been used to them, people of color.
Yeah.
So it's very different. We grew up in a different world, different mentality, and that's where two generations collide.
Yeah. And I think to if your opinion is based on one experience that you've had with that community, you have to be able to be forgiving and to be able to look at things outside your own perspective. I feel like we
Yeah,
get so caught up in our own opinions, our own perspective, that we're not looking things from from an outside view, And I think that
yeah,
as a human being, you have to be able to put yourself in other people's shoes. Otherwise, you don't really know what's going on. You don't really know what's happening. You don't really know what they're thinking. And for you to hold that grudge for until like forever pretty much, then it's going to be hard for you to actually for us as a human species to be able to come together for an issue like this. And it's hard to see my Hmong brothers and some Hmong sisters. I'm not saying many, but my Hmong brothers that are with like this all lives matter, or like are not supportive behind this cause, because
yeah,
and a lot of them they've been saying like what about when that grandma got kicked by African American men, or what about this or that happened, or why didn't they stand with us during Fong Lee? That you like going back to my point, you can't really say that one experience represents the whole community. Right now, this
yeah,
community is the one that's getting attacked, and at this moment, I'm not saying that we never have. I'm saying at this moment, this is the community that's getting targeted right now, and so we as a human being, as just a good person, you have to be able to be there for that person, for that group, so
yeah,
that they see that you're with them. I think that's really where they can, at the end of the day, come and help us when we need their help. And even if they don't, that should not matter. What should really matter is how can we help the community that's being targeted at the end of
yeah.
the day. That's gonna be the big.
Like going back on the all lives matter, yeah, I understand a lot of people are fighting for all lives matter because all lives matter. But the
Yeah,
thing is that when people shout out or chant Black Lives Matter, they're not saying that only Black Lives Matter.
yeah,
They're just saying, all lives matter for sure. Okay. But
yeah,
Black lives right now are like you said, they're getting targeted right now.
yeah,
So they're the ones that matter. I wouldn't say they matter the most, but they're the ones that we should focus on right now.
yeah, for
Going
sure.
back to like Asian discrimination, Mexicans getting discriminated and all that. We've all definitely faced racism once in our life, but for Black people, from what I've learned out of history class and just seeing in real life, Facebook, and just personal experiences, I do realize that if you're Black, you're more likely to be labeled as someone that like people are scared to approach you.
Yeah,
It's just taught. It's like throughout
yeah.
movies and life, it's just taught that, like, for
It's
example, like
it's
when people
it's how
say,
it's how the media portrays them.
yeah, it's definitely how the media portrays it. Here's a fine example of like when you're driving your car, and I've heard this story many times. People driving their car and a Black person walks up to them, the first thing they do is lock their car. But if a white person or Asian person were to walk up with the same intent just to walk by, they ain't gonna lock the door.
Yeah, that's
And
facts.
that's one reason why Black Lives Matter.
Yeah, there's that. I mean, I've definitely been a person behind that has done that before, and I hate that about myself. And I definitely noticed it, and I think that's the biggest thing we have to notice, things like that. But also, at the end of the day, like me and you have not really had to have our dad tell us, like, when the cops pull up, this is how you should be talking. When the cops pull up,
Yeah,
you know, I've never had to have a conversation with my dad, and every Black parent and dad has had to have that conversation with their kids,
Yeah.
just because they're targeted, and
Yeah.
and
That's a good
like they
point.
can't
Yeah.
even go for a jog in the park. They can't even like pull up to the corner of the street or anything like that and just hang out without being
Yep.
termed as suspicious. But
Yep.
also at the very core though, our whole system is built on uh just them not being able to get to that same level. That's how our system's built, and I think that's the biggest thing that we're fighting right now. Just because like you look at like I was watching this documentary called The 13th. There's like that the 13th Amendment is the one that abolishes slavery, right? But that was, even though Abraham Lincoln made that one, when you jumped into like after that, they still went and arrested pretty much all the black people and then turned them into slaves in prison, and that's still
Yeah.
happening today.
Yeah.
And companies are benefiting off of that because prisons are making products for them and stuff like that. So
What
it's
they call that? What do they call that? Systematic racism or something like that?
yeah, pretty much,
Yeah.
man. It's crazy. And also like black guys, a lot of them are like we've heard cases of like black dudes who are wrongfully convicted of crimes. Like they're not even the right guy. They just look the part. So then police will take
Yeah.
them in and then they'll actually make them guilty. So there's so many different things in our system that are against them that I think the common person won't really see or know. It's more like that's how I go back to the thing. You have to take yourself out of your own opinions and perspectives and do the
Yeah.
research to be really to understand like they've been fighting this for 400 plus years at the very least. And so I'm glad that we're coming together to try to make a change now. I've never seen anything like this where the whole world is coming together. Like every state in the U.S. has a protest at least, and we see places like Paris, Japan, all these different places are protesting. I've never seen anything like that, man.
I think it's crazy because not that we're just living through this right now and seeing this, we're also living through the whole coronavirus, COVID-19
Yeah, yep.
pandemic. And it's scary because of what, like, this is a movie. We're living in a movie right now.
2020 is a movie.
This is what I keep telling my parents. Like when I talk about that, I feel like we're living in a movie and that tomorrow when we wake up, we're gonna snap out of it. But we haven't because this is real life. Us
Yeah,
as seeing like, my African American black brothers and sisters, fight through this. I would never know how they feel because I am not African American. But us as Asian Americans, Hmong people, we are definitely privileged. I would say that.
facts.
Like how you said, we don't have to have that talk with our parents about
Yeah,
watch out for cops. We definitely get to walk the streets without no worries. We are the, what do they call it, model minorities of the people of color.
yeah,
People look up to Asian people, and that's why when I see people fighting against, I see people fighting for Black Lives Matter, and then there's people who are out there just the same, like Asian to Asian, okay, and then Asian people going, we fight discrimination too and all this, but like you said, after they abolished slavery, they still brought them to prison. That's
yeah.
just, they didn't do that with us. As far as I know, they didn't do that with us. We didn't face that.
We never have to experience something like that. That's
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah,
Our suffering is not even close to their suffering here in
yeah.
America. So
Like I understand when the coronavirus got really hot, a lot of people were getting heat, like Asian people.
yeah,
They were
yeah,
getting like all these racist attacks, like, oh, you're a coronavirus carrier, you guys are the
yeah,
creators of it. Like, and I'm just sitting here like, okay, now I understand a little bit about how African American people feel against racism. People attack
yeah.
everybody, literally attacking one group of people. And I'm
Hmm.
just like, man, there was a little time with like 2-3 weeks when the coronavirus was getting hot where we had to legit, after all the attacks on Asian people were happening, where you actually had to watch your back a little bit.
Yeah,
I
facts.
had friends and family that went to go get the conceal and carry because they were that scared.
Yep.
And that's when I realized, like, oh man, now I
Yeah,
understand why Black Lives Matter.
yeah.
You know,
Yep. I think that's huge. I mean, I think that helps us just give us a little perspective. I'm not saying that experience is not even close to what they've experienced, but it is
yeah,
something that has given us or has opened up our minds to see that being
yeah,
targeted is not fun. Being targeted is not fun at all. Um,
yeah,
let's transition to uh, to anti-blackness in the Asian community.
Yeah.
I think that kind of
You
plays
wanna
into
you
it.
wanna go on and explain about that in case some
Yeah,
people don't
so
know?
for the people that don't know what anti-blackness is, this is my understanding, right? And honestly, I think that this whole thing has allowed me to really put in the work to try to figure things out. Like I didn't even know what anti-blackness was before this. Um, and there's all these books and movies that I've been watching to try to understand um,
Yeah.
the fight of the Black community better. I'm not saying
Yeah.
that I ever will understand it to that extent, but this is just me doing homework so that I understand
Yeah.
um, just a little bit more. And so, anti-blackness is when people like us that are Asian, who may take things from the Black culture that are that is that is cool to us, and we kind of flip it for ourselves to monetize it,
Yeah.
or to I don't just make money from it, or just to be able to use it for ourselves, you know. And they've created
Yeah.
that, and we're not giving them that recognition. And when things like this happen on the flip, we don't want to associate with them all of a sudden. We rather associate with our white counterparts, or people that don't look like them. And so that right there is a huge issue. Like, and even if for like, let's say your uncles or something like that, they say they're not anti-black, they don't have the anti-blackness, but they're still not with Black Lives Matters. You watch football, you watch sports, you listen to music, like all those people there, they more than 90% of them are Black, you know. And so they have really
Your fantasy football team is consistent of a
exactly,
lot of
like
African
you are
Americans.
like you're taking that from them because they have made that cool,
Yeah.
you know. They're the ones that are playing, they're the ones that made it
Yeah.
cool. Honestly, to be honest with you, no hate to nobody, but Black people make stuff cool. And
Yeah, no, 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 for real. Like it's like this. A lot of people are into hip hop. A lot of people are into art. A lot of people are into
yeah,
music and all that. And a
yep,
lot of that culture comes from Black people. Like for
facts,
someone like me and you, I know you for sure. We love music,
yeah,
and a lot of the music we listen to is a lot of hip hop, R&B, and
yep,
a lot of blues, jazz type stuff that
yep,
was originally created by African American Black
facts,
people.
yep,
And how can we take that and say we enjoy their music and support them, but when it comes to down to supporting them in this time,
yep,
we're not going to support them?
facts. That's the biggest thing that we have to understand is if you want, you can't just have the
The
nice
good
part of
stuff.
everything. You have
Yeah.
to be, you know, you have. And I'm not, even if you are with that nice stuff, like great, but you can't hate, or you can't like say, oh, I'm not with them, even though you've been a part of the cult, or you've been grabbing stuff off the culture for a minute now.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm a big fan of Nipsey and Meek Mill. Those are two of my favorite rappers. And then Kobe.
Yeah.
Kobe has obviously been a huge
Kobe,
impact on me. Rest in peace to him and
rest
Nip.
in peace, 24/8.
But those
Rest
are
in
two
peace,
two of my
DG.
guys. Those are two of my guys that I look up to. I still do.
Yeah.
Those are two guys that have really, really helped, just help shape like my morals of
Yeah, no, I
right.
understand, man. Like now that you say that, I've always looked up to. I've always been a funny guy. I've always loved music. I always loved basketball. Like you, I've always looked up to Kobe. I looked up to Will Smith for sure. Will Smith has
Yeah,
always been there
Will
since
Smith.
freaking
Yep,
Fresh Prince. I grew up
yep,
watching him, and J Cole, man. I love listening to J Cole
yeah,
too, dude.
yeah, for
Those
sure.
dudes just always they're speaking facts. I follow Will Smith on a lot of platforms, social media platforms, and it's just to watch them is very uplifting, and just to realize that they are African American, and like
Hmm.
you said, we cannot just enjoy the nice fruits of their
Yeah,
labor, and then when it comes down to the bad time, we're not there to help.
facts on me. Yeah, agree 100%, man. I think even the way we talk, even the way like we the way we treat each other and stuff like that all comes from what we've seen from our Black brothers and sisters. So
Don't forget
and
about the fashion too, bro.
100%.
Fashion.
But also at the end of the day too, they are the ones that have allowed us to be able to live the way that we live today.
Yeah.
Like without them marching and without them fighting for civil rights and things like that, we wouldn't be where we are today
Yeah.
without them, that's for sure. And
Yeah.
so if you're not if you're not honestly in my view, if you're not for Black Lives Matter, you're pretty much not fighting for yourself and your own rights.
Yeah. Yeah.
To be honest with you straight up. And so we really as a whole need to come together. And so I ask that my Hmong brothers and sisters take a little time to reflect on your positions and just just do some research, man. I mean, that's the
Yeah,
biggest thing.
don't believe everything you see on Facebook, man.
Yeah, don't even
Half of those
believe.
posts are lies.
Don't even believe most of what. I mean, I wouldn't say like don't believe what me and D.Young are saying. Just take it as a wake up call to put in the work for
Yeah.
yourself, to really dig into, try to understand a little bit of their perspective. Because
Yeah, like we're not experts on this topic.
not
We're
not
just
at all.
speaking about what we know, like you said earlier.
Yep, just our experiences, our humble opinions.
And
That's
there's a
it.
lot of things that we still need to learn and should learn as people of color, you know?
Yep, for sure. Like I
Yeah.
said, this time has really allowed me to just dig deep and just try to figure things out and try to understand a little bit more. Well, yeah, I mean, we've kind of hit a lot of the stuff. I think the last thing to talk about here is one of the things that we've seen is the Uncle Two poem. So
Yeah.
for those that don't know, Tu Tao was one of the cops that stopped people from intervening, the cop from killing
Yeah.
George Floyd. And so Tu Tao
Yeah.
was the one that stopped a lot of the bystanders from intervening. And so we in our culture have people that are like that, who like to kind of just play the sideline role or try to act like nothing's really happening just to feel accepted by those around them, or just because that's the
Yeah.
way that they've been taught and stuff like that, even though they know it's wrong. And so uh, do you know who wrote that?
I don't know who wrote that, but I have a little segment here that I can read off for those people that don't know.
Go
It's
ahead.
on Facebook.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
I'll find out. I'll find out who it is.
Okay, so basically it's on Facebook from what I know, and here's a little segment of it. You can just look up Uncle Two poem and it'll pop up. So here's it goes. It goes, to all the Uncle Twos out there, I see you, I hear you. I see you turn away when your actions could have saved a life because your commitment to your brothers in combat is greater than your humanity. So to fight for the black man at your feet, begging to breathe would make you a traitor, and you can never live with that. I see you stand by your brother after he has hit your sister-in-law, but you turn the other cheek when your sister comes to you with her bruised heart and broken soul, and she turns back to the home where her trauma lives. Sorry, I can't see it because my like webcams are here, but yeah, that's a little part of it. There's like that was just the first two poems of it. There's
Yep.
like freaking 12 more after that. It's
Yeah.
a
So
big, deep poem.
it looks like that
Oh,
was
I found out who made it.
okay.
Did you
Go
get it?
ahead. I got it too, but go ahead.
Is it the MN Va?
Her name is my name Vang, pretty much.
Okay, yeah.
So yeah, she wrote that poem. It's been pretty much kind of going a little bit viral in our Hmong community on Facebook, which is great. I think that really that really put some pressure on Hmong brothers,
Yeah.
Hmong uncles.
And this is the topic on Hmong brothers and Hmong sisters will be a good whole nother video.
Yeah, I
Right
agree.
now we're more focused on the Black Lives Matter and
Yeah,
protesting right now.
but I think this really goes back to like, we as Hmong brothers and sisters cannot turn our cheek when we know something is wrong.
Yeah.
Like that police officer Tu Tao did. Like he knew that dude was like killing him pretty much, and he just didn't really do anything about it just because of, I don't know, maybe the way that the police system set up, or maybe he
Yeah,
had
he was like, he could have been following conduct, and we will never know because it's
yeah,
his mind. We
exactly,
were never in that situation.
exactly. That just
I
might
don't
have
I
been the way
don't
he
ever want
thought.
to be put in that situation.
Yeah, but even at the end of the day, like as a human being, you got to get past your badge and be like, "Yo, homie, you're on his
Yeah,
neck for 9 minutes.
yeah.
Get off him." Like that's
Uh,
just it. Just has to, as a human being, that should just click. And I felt like he just wanted to be accepted, and that goes back to kind of like the anti-black thing, which is like a lot of times among brothers and sisters, we want to go back to being with our white counterparts just because we want to be accepted from them. But we
yeah,
but we as human beings have to really stand up for what we believe in, and
yeah,
stand up for each other.
yeah, for
So
sure, for sure.
that's something that we have to understand as a whole.
Yeah,
Your thoughts on that?
and
Go ahead.
just go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
And just to put that out there, I'm not against my Hmong sisters. I'm not against my Hmong brothers.
Yep.
It's just something that we need to work on as working together. Like, I've been seeing a lot of negative stuff on Facebook about a lot of Hmong sisters hating on Hmong brothers when you can't portray all the Hmong brothers as bad brothers, because just as there's bad cops, there's a lot of good cops. I'm
Yeah.
not against cops at all. Because the first ones you call to when you're in trouble are the cops.
Yeah.
You know, I'm definitely still supportive of Black Lives Matter. I'm not supportive of the looters and rioters, and I understand a lot of people put them in the same category, but they're not.
Yeah.
And just to spread that apart, just to let people know that they're not the same.
Yeah.
And there's good people and bad people in every little group.
Yeah. I think yeah, unfortunately, with rioters and looters, like obviously, there's been some reports of like white supremacists that are starting that stuff. We've seen videos.
Yeah,
I think that has really messed with the protesters, unfortunately, right? And so for us to say like rioters and looters are bad, we have to look at who is actually at the core of who's
yeah,
starting those things, and
yeah,
but also, like I said, rioting and looting, sometimes like that's just the way that that's a form of protesting. So we have to
yeah,
understand that part at the same time. Understand their perspective, understand where the anger is coming from. This has been pretty much 400 years of not being treated fairly as human.
yeah,
That's behind all these protests. So
yeah,
that's a huge part to this. But yeah, like you said, I'm not against our Hmong brothers and sisters. I think it's just a moment for us to be able to listen, for us to be able to understand better, for us to be
yeah,
able to dig deep and just really try to educate ourselves a little bit more on these situations. When we stop learning, pretty much we're dead. So we need to be, when things like this pop up, we need to be able to try and understand, listen, and learn from these things instead of sitting back with just our own opinions, our own perspectives, because that does not help anyone.
yeah, for sure.
Cool, man. Anything else you want to add?
Let me see. I think we pretty much hit a lot of the things that we wanted to talk about. Like
Yeah,
we're here. I'm not gonna lie. We see it, we hear it, and we're here for Black
yeah,
people, African Americans. I've had my own experiences growing up in Arkansas, being the only Asian kid, and I've definitely experienced racism. But it's probably not as bad as to what Black people have been facing for years,
yeah,
hundreds of years.
yeah,
So something just to get off my chest is that to the people that aren't for Black Lives Matter and who are fighting against it, please open up your heart, open up your ears, and open up your mind to what's happening. And to the people who are for Black Lives Matter and are mad at people that aren't with them, instead of getting mad at them, educate them. Don't attack people. Instead of attacking people, how about you just teach people?
yeah,
It's like a kid. If you yell at a kid, the kid's gonna want to yell back sooner or later. So instead of doing that, when someone does wrong, teach them what they're doing, tell them what they're doing wrong. Instead of yelling, just
yeah,
show them the right way.
yeah. I think to an extent, we have to be able to help each other out. But I've seen a lot of kickback from people being like, "Hey, uh, instead of asking me, go Google and YouTube stuff," which is 100% correct. Like, hey, there's free resources out there for you to figure stuff out. Um,
Yeah,
and as a person, maybe there's someone from the Black community or there's someone that's leading the way. Um, they may not have the time or capacity to explain these type of things to you. There's a
yeah.
whole bunch of resources that are out there, so like I said, put in the time, put in the work to be able to figure stuff out. And just like like I've been saying, man, just try to see things from their perspective at the end of the day. That
I
just
think one thing to remember is it's not black versus white. It's us versus racism.
yeah, that's
Something I saw online, and that's 100% hits.
100% correct, man. Us against racism, us against the system.
Yeah,
Is really what it is, man. And for us to say like all lives matter, or for us to say weren't they there for us, like that's really pretty much just like that's ignorant for us to be able to say something like
yeah,
that. We really need to take a step back and look at things from
for
from a different
sure,
perspective. Yeah.
for sure, bro.
All right, homie. I think that's pretty much everything. We will be back
Yes, sir.
at least every week with a new video.
Yep.
Uh, we may do more than one video a week, but this is something new that we're starting with just me and D.Young. We might have some guests on here, like our homie Young. We'll see what happens, but yeah,
He's got a pretty open mind too. It'd be nice to hear what he has to
yeah,
say. Also,
yeah,
yeah.
for sure. He's working on it
Bro,
for y'all, but yeah. All right, y'all. This is Word on the Block, episode 1. Stay tuned for episode 2. We'll check y'all then. Other than that, stay safe, stay well, and Black Lives Matter.
Stay quarantined, wear a mask, and wear gloves. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Peace.
Peace.
Noble and young, you know that we just snatched the crown, yeah.